And so it's like, how are you going to make this good, God? Mm-hmm. And, we use the image of, forest fires, which is a little fitting right now with the California fires, of like the first thing that pops up in some of these places are this fireweed. And it just is proof that you can flourish again and that hope will come through the ashes. And just being able to, I lost my train of thought.
It's 10 o'clock. It's 10:02. There's a little moon on my phone, which means it's in do not disturb mode, which means I should be sleeping.
It's our bedtime.
Welcome to Book Therapy. I'm your host, Kim Patton. There's no way to count how many books are floating around in this world. Some are decent, some are truly terrible, and some are great. Today we're going to take a deep dive into one great book. Together we will discover gems of truth and encouragement to help you face your current season of life. I'm ready. You're ready. Let's get this party started. Hello, and welcome to another episode of Book Therapy. I have a repeat guest for you today. You've heard her before, and I can't wait for you to hear her again. She was featured in episode 43. So if you haven't listened to that, it's called Give Yourself Permission to Grieve, the 16th Year by Leah Outten. And that kind of tells the backstory of where she's coming from in writing this second book. But before we get to that, I just wanted to say thank you so much for listening. I got a testimonial the other day from a friend. She has been going through a hard time taking care of her mom for several years now. And her mom was in the last stages of her life. And my friend was able to be there. My friend was encouraged by the podcast. And this is what makes all of the work worth it. All of the editing, all of the reading and the research and the communicating and setting up the calls and dealing with technology. Hearing from her, it really just told me that her alone being encouraged was the best thing that can come out of this. So thank you for listening. Thank you for supporting this podcast. Because you've been spreading the word, people like my friend are encouraged. And that means a lot to me. I don't take it for granted. All right, hope you enjoy the show. Let's dive into the book. Today we have Flourishing Hope, a 30-day devotional for pregnant women in unexpected places by Leah Outten and Katie McCoy. And I have Leah here with me.
Hi, y'all.
I'm with her is what it is. She's not with me. I'm with her. I am at her house in her 7-year-old daughter's room.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
We kicked her out, and I stole her room. We get to do this in person because we're in the middle of a conference for Hope Story and Hope Books, and it's a writers' conference that Leah invited me to Leap Day of last year, February of 2024, and so we booked it the same day. Now I live in North Carolina instead of South Carolina, and you live right in South Carolina across the border, basically.
Oh, North Carolina, yeah.
So it's all
Either
very
way,
weird.
We're really close.
Yeah. It ended up working out fine. If I had moved to, like, Wisconsin, it would have been different. But because we only moved an hour and a half away, I was still able to come to the conference. So we basically are totally brain fried.
It's true.
We're already looking forward to our Chick-fil-A in the morning.
And some sleep.
So good for you guys. This might be really short. I read this book. Oh my gosh, I don't even know when I read it. When did it come out?
I think it came out September of 2024.
Yeah, so I got it right away. And I think I just finished reading it recently because I knew the conference was coming up and we had been really busy with moving. And I was like, no. I have to read Leah's book because I'm going to be at her house and I want to record a podcast with her. So Leah is amazing. If you have not heard the first podcast episode we recorded together, it's about her book,
The 16th Year. That's my memoir. That's my adoption story, my testimony.
Is your child from across the house?
She is calling me across
you.
the house.
Does she need you? Did she steal my towel again?
Probably.
we talk about the 16th year in the previous episode, but today we're going to talk about this devotional. Leah is a coach for in the pro-life community, and she writes and speaks, and we were talking today about how she talks to foster communities and adoptive parents, and her heart really is to work with adoptive parents as they are going through their whole process of adopting, because she has placed a child for adoption when she was 16 and pregnant, and then she has gone on to birth a bunch of other children.
Yeah.
And it's so cool just to see, well, first of all, your children are beautiful, and they look like you, and I love that half of them are taller than you.
Yes.
Leah looks like a sibling of her children. Like,
I get that all the
she
time.
looks like she could be their big sister.
Yes.
And it amazes me that she has 5 children who are going to all be taller than her. It's adorable.
They will. Mm-hmm.
Anything you want to say about what you do for...
My main job is working with families who are in the process of adopting with Christian adoption consultants. And so my job is to help I'm tangibly helping in the process of creating their profile book while sneakily educating them on the realities of it, and birth parent perspective, and just helping to start planting those seeds of education. So I really, really love that, because that's just part of changing the culture of things and helping to prepare people better to have better outcomes, as I feel like I was the product of having a family that understood more of the complexities, so they were able to support me better. So just trying to help other people. And that's where this devotional kind of comes in too. This is the book that Katie and I wished that we had when we were pregnant. And just helping women to know that they're not alone, and that just because right now is burned to the ground and things are changed and they're different than what you thought it was going to look like, which can apply to lots of different situations. But in this situation, it's like you're in crisis mode, and it's, for me and for Katie, it was really helpful to see down the line of someone who's walked through it and how did they overcome it. And so we wanted to write this for women in those places that they can flourish too. And here's lessons that God taught us along the way that could be an encouragement to her.
I thought that I would read this book and think I wasn't the, target audience, but I still really, really enjoyed it. And I think that it connected to universal truths that I felt were very challenging, and you guys did a really good job of diving into the intimacy of being pregnant, but also you didn't really talk a whole lot about that. You talked about the faithfulness of God. You talked about the importance of community coming around you. You talked about letting go of shame and regret and living in freedom. So there were so many truths that I learned and appreciated in this book that it was unexpected.
Thank you. I feel like that's our heart is, yes, this is like a very specific audience, but I do think that it can apply to so many different, as we've thrown around the word universal truth a lot today. I just feel like there's a lot of universal truths that no matter what you're walking through, there's still nuggets of truth for everybody. So I even gift this to, this is meant for pregnancy while they're making a decision of, do I parent, do I place, what's the path that God has for me? But I have a lot of adoption connections, and so they're like, I want to give this to a birth mom. And I always just give that disclaimer of like, it's meant for this, but I promise you will get something out of this too. The message can be bigger than it is, but yeah, I'm glad you...
It didn't have to be that way. I mean, you really could have zoned in on like the 9-month journey and focusing on the baby, and I don't feel like you did that. You took a really broad, and maybe because you both have quite a few years of perspective now, maybe if you had written this right away, it would have been more focused on the actual pregnancy. But you're both women of faith. You're both women who have your own families, and you've seen God work in your lives since the moments that you found yourself in this unexpected place. We're going to talk about first the crushing reality of the situation that some women find themselves in, which is an unexpected pregnancy. Katie says on page 35 that she struggled to rejoice. She wanted to scream at God, "Why do I have to experience so much pain? I knew I made the choices, but I still felt like I went through an unfair amount of suffering, but Jesus was still present." She goes on to say that she rejoices now that God protected her through those years and brought her out of toxic relationships, substance abuse, and homelessness. So talk to me about the crushing reality and how it probably feels impossible to rejoice or have joy when you are facing such an impossible decision.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and Katie's story is very different than mine. So what she's walked through is, of course, there's like the common threads within, underneath it all. And just what she's overcome is really incredible as well. And finding joy, I feel like those are we heard it today of like the sprinkles of joy. Like we've got to find something to be able to survive the moments. And it can be as simple as the sun is shining today. Or, for me, there was a teacher who poured love into me. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm so grateful she was my teacher through these really hard times because she was a light for me. And so I feel like being able to rejoice and find joy in little things, like those are the anchors that help us to climb out of what we're going through. Like we have to have hope to be able to not get stuck in the mess that we're in.
That's really cool that your teacher was there for you. That's in her first book, guys. It's in her first book. You say on page, my voice is like fading. You say on page 38, "Despite knowing the Lord for many years, I was still self-blaming and so ashamed of pieces of my past. In therapy one day, I was working through processing some trauma, and I clearly felt the Lord with me. I saw in my mind's eye a black trash bag tied up and sinking to the bottom of the ocean. I heard him say, 'This is trash, you don't need it anymore.'" That was really powerful. I still struggle with shame. I don't know what my deal is, but I just struggle with, they talked about today at the conference something about why are you expecting to be perfect? Like,
Literally no one is.
Why is that even a thing? Like, why does perfectionism exist? It shouldn't. It's not real. Yeah. But yet, we still struggle with perfectionism or thinking it's possible. So you process this through therapy.
Yes.
And tell me about the experience of God saying, "You know what? You don't need that."
Yeah, so this was in my 30s, probably 35-ish. So almost 20 years almost after being pregnant and walking through, abuse and toxic situations and things like that. And for me, as becoming again, we talked about this today, becoming a wife and having children really revealed a lot of things that I still needed to heal and process, where I'm like, God has brought me so far, but he's like, the onion's still got layers to unfold. So, it was really affecting my marriage, to be honest. Okay. I was so stuck in the shame of this is my past. And yes, pieces of it I had dealt with, like adoption and things like that. I wasn't beating myself up about adoption, but I was beating myself up about like, I allowed this person to do this and I chose to do that. And like leading all the choices leading up to adoption before I knew Christ, I was beating myself up. And so it was really affecting my marriage and my trust in my husband and being vulnerable with him and, just knowing how to love and to be loved and all those things. And so I decided to go to therapy. It was really powerful. I did EMDR therapy, so it was more than just talk therapy.
Okay.
And so it really was a vision that came while I was doing EMDR, and he was just like, you got to drop this. Like, this is not serving you. This is holding you back. And the verse, it's like, as far as east to west to the bottom of the ocean, like, it's gone. Like, stop trying to hold it. Oh. And so, yeah, I want to also say, like, I'm still not perfect in this. I think even last night in bed, like, I cannot believe I did that, whatever it was. And it still comes and haunts me. But there's just the reminder that we have to we can continually release those things when the enemy tries to bring them back. It's like, that's already dealt with, you know?
And even when we say, like, okay, I'll let it go, you're going to have to let it go tomorrow and next week and next year when you get a reminder again or a memory. You have to step forward in obedience and say, no, that's not a part of my life anymore. I'm forgiven.
Yeah. Like for me, I really felt stuck in that I wasn't finding a way out of it myself. And so it's okay and good to go to therapy to help you process those things. Because in that perspective of having somebody else to walk you through that.
What is EMDR?
It's like eye movement rapid desensitization, I believe. Okay. So they're kind of connecting the brain neurotransmitters to your memories and desensitizing it. So you're thinking of memories that are kind of traumatic and then reprocessing them. And it did wonders.
Wow.
It was so helpful. So highly recommend that.
Do they electrocute you?
No.
It sounds like...
No. It does sound like that. It's literally just, for me, I did tapping, which just helps your left and right brain to connect. And you just talk about it, you just kind of sit in your body and just feel really self-aware of, where are you feeling this in your body, and, sharing that with your therapist and talking about what's going on in your memories. And you do have like a target goal, like you're not just floundering with whatever pops up. You kind of have a goal that you're working on to really undo whatever that lie is that you're like working to desensitize to truth of, if I'm like, oh, I'm so shameful, it's like, no, I'm set free, or whatever it is. Wow. So it's so powerful.
That's really cool. How long did you do that for?
Off and on for probably 4 years. Yeah. It wasn't consistent, but like I'll kind of like go for several months and work on some things and then kind of rest and process and then go back if something else is popping up. So
wow.
Yeah, cool. It's really, really good tool if you need some extra guidance, especially with trauma.
I'm sorry, and that's affecting you.
We all do. We really all do. But I'm proud of the work I've done. Like, I've worked really, really hard to get where I am today. And again, not perfect. Still have more to work on. But so grateful for how God has brought tools in my life and people in my life to help me to be better for myself and better for my platform and be better for my children, most of all. Like, so I can have a relationship with my birth daughter. Some birth brothers, are in that place where they can love on their children that they've placed, or the parents parents struggling with things within their home, and that affects I just don't want to be that person. I want to break the cycles. So
you totally are. This house is so peaceful.
Oh, thank you.
I don't know
it's like the biggest compliment.
It is so peaceful. I'm like, I swear she doesn't have 5 kids because I can hear myself breathe. Like, my 2 children are louder than whoever's in this house. But
my kids are older, though, too. That's a big, big difference compared to your household and your season.
Well, and last night, your husband told me that he's like, well, the youngest is asleep. Yes. I'm like, okay, well, that helps.
Yeah.
Secondly, we're going to talk about a faithful God, and I felt that this was a theme throughout the whole book. Katie mentions on page 53 that God is working on our behalf. He is putting people in our path to help hold us up, like you were talking about with your teacher. He's placing opportunities for provision or safety. He is putting moments of laughter and goodness in to show us hope, and so much more. That's part of what you were saying of finding hope, and you have to have the little things. So how was God faithful to you through your pregnancy and adoption? I mean, I know that's a loaded question, but how did you feel like God really took care of you through a scary time in your life?
So, well, since I had two unplanned pregnancies, and they were both different, and he showed up in different ways with each one. But I think like with my adoption story, it was definitely the support of my family and, counselors and people, teachers he put in my life. But also the adoptive parents and how God showed up he put the same name on our hearts.
Oh yeah.
Like, you just can't argue with that of like, who else but God could have provided that? And we hadn't even talked about it. And so it was just very clear of, he's with me. I've got you. Trust me with this. I'm going to bless you with this. And I just need you to surrender. And like that, the reward of those steps of obedience, just being so clear in hindsight, because he would reveal it once I've made that step, kind of thing. And then with my second pregnancy, it really was financial provision, because we both, my husband and I, were 19, 20 when she came along, and just how much he provided financially so that we could get on our feet, or having parents who were like, hey, come live with us for a few years so you can finish school, scholarships to go to school for free because we were married and had a daughter, and like just things that, well, yes, we did things out of order, we got back on track, and like he blessed us. And so there's just looking for those things of how God is showing up, even if it's looked different than, again, how you imagine it would be. He makes a way for it, when you're in his will. So
he took care of you.
Yeah.
And I love that your husband was there. You guys have been together for so long, and you've been through so much. It shows me that you and your husband have been serving God faithfully for all these years. Even though you got married young, even though you did things out of order, I still see the evidence. Like, you can't hide the evidence that God has done so much in your life. I don't like it when premarital sex is like the sin of all sins. So it's like, seriously, guys, come on. Like, growing up in the purity culture and the purity movement, I get it, okay? You want the bride to wear white, but your story makes me also appreciate how God takes all of the decisions we make and uses them for good. He's using you now to possibly save children of this next generation and heal relationships with mothers and fathers and children and adoptive parents and birth parents. So again, all things kind of circle back to this is how he's using you, and it's beautiful.
Thank you.
Lastly, we're going to talk about wise actions. And there's one thing that is super convicting, and I think it's the second one. This first quote is from page 64. And Leah, you are mentioning here that your first daughter says, "Thank you for giving birth to me." When I read that, I mean, what does it feel like to have your daughter look at you and say that to you?
Yeah. It's, again, as someone who wasn't in the ideal situation and could have made different choices, and to realize that they realize I could not be here if you had made a different choice. And to be thanked for that is honoring, but a little weird. Because, like, of course. But I don't know. I just think it's a reminder that, like, for me, that it's not just about me as a person or as a mom, but it's like my decisions that affect my children. And that starts with their life, giving them life. But it, there's so many different moments of how that affects, or just our decisions affect them. But for me, it's an encouragement that, like, that decision to choose life matters, but also how we're choosing to live life and breaking those cycles. And really everything I do is because I want to be good for them and my connection with them. And that's what I'm trying to do with my coaching of, like, yes, we're talking about adoption, but this is your relationship with your child, and or your whether you're an adoptive parent or a birth parent or whatever, like that connection and that life, like, how are you living life? Is it really, how can we make it healthier?
You mentioned earlier when we were talking about this that adoptive parents have a hard time viewing the birth parents in an honorable light. Mm-hmm. And they struggle with the choices that the birth parents made. We've experienced this in our adoption with our girls. Adoptions. I have lots of thoughts and feelings about this. And if you know me at all and have talked to me about my adoptions, I'll talk to you about how we love our birth mother. We love Ashley. We talk to her and we have a great relationship with her. And she's hilarious and wild and such a delight in our life. But you're educating adoptive parents on something that can be really difficult, which is when other people make choices that they don't agree with, how do they handle that? And so I see your heart behind this being like, you don't want to just be a good parent. You don't want to just be grow your family. You want to also be a good human mm-hmm. and a good servant of the Lord and give love to those around you. And that includes the birth parents.
Yeah. Yes, it does. And it's, for some, I see that come easily because they're operating not just out of a heart of, I want to grow my family, but they're operating out of a heart of, this is a ministry too. And like, if I can love and welcome this child into my home, I need to realize that this birth family is a part of them too. And I need to love and honor them too. And they gave this child life. And so like, if that's the only thing that you can honor and be thankful for because you disagree with everything else, that's one thing to be grateful for and to start with, to be grateful and to love her with whatever's going on in her life, because that's a part of your child and their identity. And there's so much we can go into with this, but it's so much bigger than we think it's going to be.
And adoptive parents stepping into the adoptive world, it's okay that they don't know this because it's very complex. I mean, I didn't know it. I remember researching the weirdest things when we were prepping for adoption, and just like Googling just the crazy questions that you have, because I mean, no one was there to really help us that had done this before. I had some help, but we can see now, okay, yeah, it was really important for us from the very beginning to work on a good relationship with Ashley. And it did not happen right away. We knew her for 3 weeks before Eden was born, and then the entire pregnancy with Shiloh. So we had the time to get to know her, and now it's been 5 years almost in a few weeks. You're working with them beforehand, and they may not have that perspective, but that's okay. That's mm-hmm. why they need you. That's why we need to come alongside adoptive families and help them with anything they need when they're planning to adopt and post-adoption, because they need support.
Yeah, it plants the seeds for when they're like, oh yeah, they told me about this. Now how do I do that?
Okay, this next point was super convicting for me. On page 72, you talk about the root of bitterness. And when I read this, it was like super applicable to my life. I have been thinking about the root of bitterness, I would say just recently. You say, hurt people. Often that's because of this deep bitterness root. It may feel good for a minute to lash out, but does it help? No. It only makes the root grow deeper, entangling us even more. So how do we uproot bitterness so beauty can grow again? And you talk about forgiveness, you talk about pulling weeds, and just growing in relationships. It's so hard to not react. You know, they teach you in parenting, like, respond, don't react. And I'm like, I don't know how to do that. Yeah. I don't know how to have a thoughtful response to the toddler screaming. And I'm trying. I'm getting better. I'm trying. As a woman is going through this decision, life change, transition, all the things, how can she avoid the root of bitterness? And like you said, when you were doing therapy, you had a lot of things that kept popping up.
So I would say in my first pregnancy, I had a lot of bitterness and anger towards her birth father because he just was not interested. He was not going to show up. He was like, you do what you want to do. And for someone who 8 months before was promising like the moon and the stars. It's like, okay, I need you now. What happened? And so I dealt with the bitterness and anger of him not being there, like feeling abandoned basically. And I feel like God, as a little baby Christian, since I became a Christian during that pregnancy, God, one of the first things he did was letting go of that bitterness of like, okay, I literally cannot control him. Yes, I'm hurt by this, but I'm not going to let it control me. And I need to release this so that I can move on into what God has for me next. And I met my husband the next year. Like I knew I needed to make that process and move forward and not let the choices of what other people chose to do to hold me back from what God was going to have me do. And so I know it's so hard. And I definitely feel like with parenting, I'm the same way. Like I feel like it's the hardest with our children. And it's not necessarily I'm holding a root of bitterness, but the lashing out and the anger, I totally get that. It's so hard.
Because they be crazy.
It's like, how do you reach the logical part of their brain, which is so frustrating.
I don't think they have it. They don't have it at all.
That's why I love this older kid phase. It's like I can have a rational conversation, and so it's been so much a little easier. I'm enjoying this phase of life. But I think for a woman in this situation, it's just being able to again surrender and forgive and just be willing to let go of the things that are holding you back. And I know for me, like that, I wrote that in a time of where there was a lot of discouraging voices in social media. Mm-hmm. And so I was having bitterness from those kinds of situations where it's like, they just don't get me. I'm misunderstood. Like, you're just being mean just to be mean because you're on a keyboard and not in front of my face. And like, I had to let that go. And, as a lot of what we've talked about in Hope Story today, just like, I can't let those voices change what God is calling me to do. And I can't let it fester into a hatred for somebody else that I literally don't even know. Mm-hmm. And so it can apply in lots of things, but I think for these unplanned pregnancy situations, it's usually people you do know, mm-hmm. and people who aren't showing up how you expect them to, and maybe that's part of it. It's like letting go of those expectations and forgiving that they can't be what you need them to be. But God can be that person. Mm-hmm. He can help put people in your life who can be that. And for me, like, he couldn't be there to be her father, but her adoptive dad came in and stepped into that place. And, God can see. It's just that. Mm-hmm. So,
yeah, you had to do a lot of trusting.
Yeah.
Because you didn't know those people either. I mean, you read their profile book and you picked the same name, but, I mean, you're still entrusting the life of your firstborn child to strangers. And that's something that we can appreciate about birth mothers across the board, is when they choose adoption, they are trusting that another family will be able to take care of something so precious. That relinquishment it's tough, but I'm really proud of birth moms. I'm really proud of Ashley. Like I told you, she thanks us and says, it was the best decision. And it's just really cool how God provides families, not in the way that we expected, but God has taken care of you and your family, and he's taken care of me and my family.
Mm-hmm. And I think that's what's hard to grasp when you're in this crisis situation, or even in your situation. It looks different how you expect it to. And so it's like, how are you going to make this good, God? Mm-hmm. And, we use the image of, forest fires, which is a little fitting right now with the California fires, of like the first thing that pops up in some of these places are this fireweed. And it just is proof that you can flourish again, and that hope will come through the ashes. And just being able to, I lost my train of thought.
It's 10 o'clock. It is 10:02. There's a little moon on my phone, which means it's in do not disturb mode, which means I should be sleeping.
It's our bedtime. But yeah, just even though things look different, that God is flourishing and he can work and it creates something new. And he's so good at that. And that's where that trust has to come of like, I've seen you do it here, so I'm going to trust that you're going to do it here. Or I've seen you do this in somebody else's life, and I'm going to trust that you're going to do it for my life too. And so that's why I think these stories can be so powerful to help show people who were steps ahead and how they did it and what God did, so that we can have hope for our own personal stories.
I would say that I'm so sad to end this interview because I have to say goodbye to you, but I don't have to say goodbye to you. No. We still have another day tomorrow. We have a bunch of workshops and breakout sessions, and we have no idea what they are because they didn't tell us. So all I'm thinking about right now is
with the flow.
Sleep.
Yes.
And then Chick-fil-A.
Yes.
And then more learning, more taking notes, more Leah Kim time. Then I get to drive home and see my babies.
Yeah. And we're going to celebrate our birthday.
Whose birthday is it tomorrow?
My daughter Ashlyn is turning 12. So we're going to go eat IHOP.
Oh, okay. For dinner?
For dinner.
Okay.
I don't have to cook tomorrow.
Yay!
That's a gift to me.
Yes. Happy birthday to me.
Yes.
12 was a big birthday in our family growing up because we got to ride in the front seat of the car.
Ooh,
I don't know what the rule is here in South Carolina.
My kids are little, so I make them probably wait a little bit longer.
Okay. Well, anything else you want to say to the world before we go to bed?
Thanks for being here. I'm thankful for you. Thankful for how I've said this before, but your podcast is one of my favorites just because of how intentional, like, you go through the book. It's not just let's talk about, it's just different. I've been on many podcasts, and you go through the book and you pick things that touched your heart, which is so encouraging as an author to just see what spoke to the reader of you and what you connected with and what you wanted to talk about. And it's so great. So thank you for being here.
Yeah.
And thanks for, hosting.
Yeah, hosting at your house where you're hosting me. It's like...
It's a gives, full circle.
Yeah, she bought me Chick-fil-A today, and I'm buying her Chick-fil-A tomorrow. And I know I've said Chick-fil-A like 20 times, but...
She's so excited.
It's really important to me. And when I got up this morning and Leah texted me and said, I need to stop at Chick-fil-A, I was like, oh, praise Jesus.
Way better than peanut butter toast.
I couldn't find the bread anyway. I found the peanut butter, but I didn't look very hard.
Oh, okay.
I was like, well, guess I can't have peanut butter toast. I ate my dry Fruit Loops.
See, that would not be sustaining for
our
long day of learning.
No.
Chick-fil-A is much better.
Yeah. All right. Thank you.
All right.
See you tomorrow.
Thank you for listening to another episode of Book Therapy. Today we talked with Leah Outten about her book Flourishing Hope, a 30-day devotional for pregnant women in unexpected places. You can find Leah online at leahoutten.com, and also she's pretty active on Instagram. I love the beautiful posts that she is often posting about adoption, birth mothers, and the relationship between adoptive families and birth families. I highly, highly encourage you to check her out, if for anything, just so that you know what other women are going through and how you might be able to support them. Of course, read her first book, the memoir, The 16th Year, which was published in 2023. It is an excellent memoir. It is beautiful. It'll make you laugh and cry, and it has so many good stories packed in there. All right, thank you so much for listening. See you next time.